And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Today, a Democracy Now! Special with a leading Muslim scholar who is banned from entering the United States for 6 years. The Swiss-born Tariq Ramadan is professor of contemporary Islamic studies at Oxford University, the president of the Brussels-based think tank European Muslim Network, and the author of a number of influential books on Islam and Europe. In 2004, Tariq Ramadan had accepted a job at the University of Notre Dame in Indiana, and Time magazine listed him among the top 100 thinkers in the world. But 9 days before Ramadan was set to start teaching here in the United States, the Bush administration revoked his visa, invoking a provision of the Patriot Act that allows the government to deny entry to non-citizens who, quote, endorse or espouse terrorism. The ACLU took up Tariq Ramadan's case in court and claimed he was being excluded because of his views. The administration then accused Ramadan of donating over $1,000 to a charity that had allegedly given money to the Palestinian group Hamas. Well, in January of this year, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton lifted the travel ban on Tariq Ramadan and another scholar, the South African Adam Habib, who we interviewed on Democracy Now! Earlier this week. Tariq Ramadan arrived in the United States on Wednesday evening. Angelique Kamat and I spoke to him yesterday shortly before he gave his first public address in this country at Cooper Union here in New York. We began by asking him to explain why he'd been barred from entering the United States.
Look, I was banned from the country 6 years ago, and I was told that this was because of the Patriot Act and my connection and my links with terrorist groups. And then this was removed, and they said, oh, you gave money, and you yourself acknowledged the fact that you gave money to organizations that are allegedly, connected to Hamas and terrorist groups. But they made a mistake, because I gave the money 1 year before this organization. These organizations were blacklisted in the state, and they are not blacklisted in Europe. So, it's just a silly and ridiculous decision. And at the end of the day, what is quite clear for me is that the fact that I was so very critical, so much critical towards the foreign policy in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and criticizing also the unilateral support of the United States of America towards Israel and not acknowledging the Palestinian rights is something which at the end was the main reason, knowing that this is what I have been saying. I'm critical towards the American policy. I have been, and very much against the Bush administration.
Can you talk about why the policy has changed under President Obama, what they told you, and then when you came into the country and were taken in by immigration, what questions they asked you?
First about, it's quite clear that there is a shift in the American policy. And from the beginning, when I was supported by ACLU and the American Academy of Religions and other, the American Association of University Professors and Penn, it was quite clear that I should not confuse between people, Americans who are supportive and defending the human dignity and human rights, and this specific Bush administration having something which is a binary vision of the reality. You are with us or against us. Now you have elected a president who is much more sophisticated than the previous one, and his administration is different. So what we can see now with the banning of scholars is something which is quite over. They want to change this, and they want to engage into open dialogue and critical dialogue, and I think that this is the way forward. So I would say that what is the reality of the United States now, this is something which is new. So we have signals that things are changing. Now, on the global overall picture, we still need to see more coming from the Obama administration when it comes to what I still criticize when it comes to Afghanistan, Iraq, and Palestine and the rights of the Palestinians. So we want now this administration to deliver much more than only to speak. The speeches are good and open and right, I would say this, and I'm always constructively critical when I see things moving. I say, okay, this is good, but I think that this is the way now it's moving. So there are changes in your country, and they are welcome, and this is why I'm here. I would say that this is a political decision to say this era is over now. We are opening a new chapter with the relationship, as to the relationship with the Muslims in the West and the Muslim majority countries. Still, when I arrived yesterday in the country, something which was quite interesting is that they were asking me, why are you here? What are you talking about and who are you meeting? And I would say that the first step is to let me in. The second step is to avoid asking me this question. In a democratic society, you don't ask someone, what are you going to speak about? I was used to this in my country of origin in Egypt. Now I am banned from Egypt, where they were asking me where, who, with, whom are you going to meet, and what are the topics you are talking about. In not democratic society, you can expect this, not in the United States of America.
In June of last year, President Obama gave a much heralded speech in Cairo to the Muslim world. What's your assessment of the way he's reaching out to the Muslim world while continuing in many ways the policies of the Bush administration, in some ways worsening them in certain places?
Look, my first reaction was a positive reaction, because I really think that this speech in Cairo was a very good one. It was a brilliant discourse, open to the Muslim majority countries, but not only. You know, many people were saying, okay, he was addressing the Muslims around the world, which is not only this that he was doing. He was also talking to Americans, saying, look, American Muslims are contributing and they are part of this country. Something that I have been saying for the last 20 years. Islam is an American religion, is a European religion. And to speak about them outside, it's wrong. So I think that he was targeting and trying to get the Muslim majority countries, but also Muslims and Americans from within. So this was a very important discourse. While, as I said, we are happy to see a new vision, a new way of talking. Now we want practical measures. We want to see things happening. We spoke about Guantanamo, and still, you know, we were told it's going to be closed, and still we have the problems not going to happen. In Iraq, in Afghanistan, while he was against the war in Iraq, that's fine. But now, how are we going to solve the problem? In Afghanistan, where many people are not clear on what is happening, this war is a mistake, it's wrong, and in Iraq it's illegal. And then we are talking today about the tensions between the United States of America and the Israeli government and Netanyahu. That's fine, these are tensions, but is it going to change? Are we going to see something on the ground which is protecting the Palestinian dignity and rights? I don't see this happening. So I'm not naive. We know that during the first term of a new president, it's very difficult for him to change, and it takes time. But still, we want more than words, and we want things to happen. So there is something which is a mixed feeling towards the new president, which is, okay, that's good, new vision, smart, intelligent, charismatic president, but still policies are not moving the way we want, or not. He can do better on translating these speeches into policies.
And let's move to an issue you've written extensively about, which is Muslims in Europe, and how you see, you said Islam is a European religion, Islam is an American religion. Expand what you mean by this, and talk about it in the context of growing Islamophobia in Europe. We've seen the Swiss attempt to ban minarets, the French attempt to ban full veils on women, the crisis over the cartoons. Talk about what it's like to be Muslim in Europe.
Look, I'm used to speak about Western Muslims, and as much as you are talking about security here, we talk about new visibility there. You don't have a problem with visibility in the States, for example, but you may have a problem with this presence and mistrust. In Europe, we are facing exactly the same problems with new populist parties, old populist parties, far-right parties, using the Muslim presence and pushing us towards something which is emotional politics, using fears and very old racist attitudes and logic just to target the Muslims, say they are threatening the very homogeneity of our culture. So this is something which is really important. While what I'm saying, we are dealing with perceptions. So there is a clash of perception and mistrust here. While if you look at facts and figures, millions of Muslims are American, Canadian, European, and they don't have a problem. They are abiding by the law, and they don't have a problem of living as European. When I'm saying that, for example, I'm a European Muslim, I'm European by culture and Muslim by religion, and there is no problem. I find my way, and this is the 3 L's that I'm mentioning in my last book. I say we need to abide by the 3 L's. The first one is to abide by the law of the country, to know the language of the country, and to be loyal to our country. And to be loyal means critically loyal. I'm a citizen when I'm saying yes when it's right, and I can be critical when I think it's wrong. So this critical loyalty is very important.
European Muslim scholar Tariq Ramadan. We'll come back to the interview in a minute.